Okay, Sats. So we come in first thing in the morning. We get all of our stuff set up. We come out to front of house and we turn this guy on. What do we do?
There are two power supplies on the back here. One, two. The reason for this is highly just redundancy. A lot of people have one of them plugged into a battery backup. Others have it into two separate circuits. But it gives you the ability, especially if you plug into a battery backup, if you lose power, your console isn't going to shut down and take forever to start back up.
Right. So your show or your service is safe. So these are hot swappable, meaning the console is just fine, still on. See, it gives me an alert. Hey, you got a problem here, but I'm still fine. Everything is still operating just as needed. You can then, if you lost power on a circuit, you can reset that, get it fixed, get your thing plugged back in. Or if you're on a tour, you can actually, these can slide right out, and you can change out the whole power supply if that happens to break. But full redundant power supplies. Actually, all Digico products, your stage racks in your rack, those all have dual power supplies, 2 cables coming out of each thing. Same thing. Everything Digico makes is all dual redundant power supplies. So there's always 2 cables coming out of everything, and they are fully hot swappable, meaning you can lose or unplug one anytime, and you're still just fine with that.
Yep, so you'd come in, you'd flip both power switches on. The desk would go into its startup mode, which it's already.
Yeah, so it would come up onto this screen here, look just like this. By default, it will not recall a session. You see here at the top of this screen, it is showing a session is recalled called Movement Weekend.
Yep.
By default, it will not recall a session. It will open a blank session. The reason for that, yeah, that's a setting in the options, which we'll go over. We want to make sure that everyone is set that way. But the reason for that is this is running a Windows computer inside of here. It's a heavily modified version of Windows XP that they have made to work right, just like that. So just like in the olden days when you had a desktop computer at the house, everyone has laptops and tablets now, but when you had, and your parents didn't want you to leave it on, you had to turn the thing on and off every time you wanted to use it. You had to go through the shutdown process. You didn't just shut it. You didn't just flick the power switch. So because it's a computer, we want to load the file that we want to operate on a given Sunday, load it fresh after the power shut up. So that's why we don't want it to set to automatically recall a file each week. So we would come, we'll go through some of the menus here. Go right up to, he's gonna select, let's recall a session, or show them how to recall a session. So we would select files.
Files, you come down to load session, and it pops up the lovely files list. And based on how you guys have set up your structure of scenes, you're gonna recall the last week's session, which is usually year, month, date. So.
No, don't recall, because we're not going to recall because I've got settings set up right now for us to do a playback. But typically you would come in so last week would be this November 17th, so you would select that 2019, 11/17, and then in the lower right there you see the load button. If you can set that keyboard up there so we can use the mouse to point on the screen, that would be great. Yep, so there you see the load button. So you would just click on that, view your keyboard. The mouse is built into the keyboard, by the way.
Yes.
That's why I'm referring to the keyboard. There's a mouse and 2 buttons that are built into this keyboard, which you all have with your systems. So you would click load, and that would recall that.
Yep.
So we would lose audio at that point. If for
Correct.
whatever reason there was audio playing, that would happen. It takes about 15 to 20 seconds to recall the session, bring it all up to speed, and load that.